All right, excellent. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome to the new season of INTEA Breakfasts. We are playing a little bit around with technology this season with new cameras and a new way to broadcast. Thank you for joining on YouTube or watching this as a recording a little bit later. Let's begin. For the next half hour, we'll talk about the new trends of 2023, and we have highlighted the word "new" here, and we'll explain why in just a second.
Right.
So, if you're interested in what's been happening in the previous 5 seasons, you might want to go to YouTube, find INTEA Learning. There are, I think, some 40 breakfasts at this point, covering all topics about e-learning, learning and development, authoring platforms, anything else that can be related. I think we've devoted a lot of time to marketing your learning and engaging your employees into the learning workflow. So yeah, welcome. Now, last year, we did this for the first time, right? We wanted to talk about 2022 trends, and what we have found out that there are a lot of fake trends, right? So, right. And fake, they are kind of in quotes, simply because they are trends, right? Let me give you an example. So if you start Googling something like e-learning trends for 2023, you'll find stuff like content curation or adaptive learning or micro-learning, nano-learning, bite-sized learning, stuff like that. And we can't say they are not trends, right? We cannot say that this year learning will become longer.
Yeah, or it will not be mobile anymore.
Yes, it will, or suddenly it will not be adaptive or something like that. They are trends. They have been trends for the past anywhere between 5 and 10 years. They will continue to be those trends, but it's not useful to talk about them because we want to talk about new trends, as we said on the very first slide. So when we talk about kind of looking back at last year, if you remember, I took this screenshot literally from last year's video. We talked about recession, right? I think I actually was shocked. Like I rewatched this video from last year, and it was kind of shocking to me that this whole video was about adapting to recession.
Yeah,
right. So
it was,
and we predicted recession, and we got war, and that's yeah, it's been a terrible year on every front for a lot of people. But I think what was useful about being prepared is actually being prepared, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to change that much this year, but it's interesting to look into what the economists, like the real economists, are saying. And if you start Googling like 2023 recession, will it be there or not, you'll find a lot of scary stuff, right? Some news outlets are more skeptical, some are less. If you look at like Washington Post, for example, I know, like, do not bother with a small text, but essentially just shows you 10 different banks giving 10 different opinions on whether the recession will be there or not, and that's kind of what analysts typically do, right? So, but in general, the consensus is rather pessimistic. And speaking of predictions from last year, like technically, I actually Googled it because I have graduated business school 20 years ago. So actually, a recession technically counts if you have 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth.
Yeah.
So last year, I think Q2 and Q3 in the United States was officially a recession, right? They had negative quarters. So yeah, recession did happen last year in the United States. In Europe, the negative GDP was registered in the fourth quarter of last year, and it makes very little sense to talk about Europe as a whole. In different countries, it was a little bit different. Obviously, countries like the Baltic states have been hit a little bit worse because we are closer to the war. We are more reliant on energy prices and so on. But generally, we've all been there. It's not been good. I've just received my heating bill. It's not going to ruin us, but it's not. But it's not a good experience.
No.
So right.
So,
the recession, I think, is going to be another trend here. But we don't want to talk about the economy. We want to talk about what to do if you're a learning development manager. Right, and I think the trend number one for 2023 will be a continuation from last year. It's being agile, right? It's being able to adapt to changing environments. It's being able to adapt to economic downturn if one happens, and also being able to adapt to growth, because during recessions things can happen. Your company can suddenly buy a different company, right?
Yeah.
So someone will be going out of business, your management will decide to acquire it, suddenly you have 1,000 people to train on your corporate values, on your business procedures, on your software, and so on. So for you as an L&D manager, this can be a year of growth, despite whatever might be happening to the economy, right? On the other hand, we know that we are pretty much through the pandemic, except for China, and I think China is not collapsing. And in certain countries or certain industries, we might see growth, so you have to be prepared for that. So I think agility will be a big issue. And number one recipe to deal with this, I would say, is to transfer from big projects into smaller projects, right? This is what we've been seeing last year as well, with companies trying not to invest into projects that you will have to work on for, let's say, 18 to 24 months. And then if something changes in the meantime, the whole project will not be as useful as you hoped to. Or there will be a lot of sunk cost in that project that you will not be able to recover. So instead, try to plan 2023 as a swarm of smaller projects.
Yeah, and already that last year, I should say that this thinking about big projects started to change, adapting to this agile approach, let's call it agile, where we also working with our customers try to talk about let's stage it in MVPs, right? Like a startup would do, right?
MVP is the minimum viable product, right? So MVP means that what is the minimum basic course that we can deliver on this topic to cover the immediate need and do it quickly. Once we've established that, yes, we've patched this, we've fixed this, what is the next step to build on top of this course? Maybe it's a different training program, an additional activity, maybe expansion of this course to a new audience and so on, as the next step. And then what's the next step? And then if the next step doesn't happen, were the previous 3 steps useful, or
and what are the lessons learned?
Just lost them.
So
stuff
same
like
goes actually for the platform implementation. The last couple of times we've talked about it is that there is no more an expectation that, okay, let's start implementing today and finish in 6 months, and then we'll have all of the functionality, all of the learning audiences addressed and so on. We'd rather go in those MVPs, which makes it easier, especially given that resources are stretched. I mean, human resources.
One thing that you can really save on, I think, is branding, right?
Yeah.
So we've had implementation projects for learning platforms where we would spend like 4 months on rebranding the platform to really be indistinguishable from your company's website or other systems, and it's always more difficult than even building from scratch. And in the end, we would still have like 95% of what we wanted to, and the platform would still not be running. So now I would say slap on your logo, maybe add a couple of corporate colors, everyone knows it's a platform which is done by a third party. It's all fine. Kind of like if you implement Google Suite, the G Suite, for your company, and you all move to Gmail, all you can do is recolor a few things. You can add your own logo, and it will be only a certain size, and it will always sit in this top left corner, nowhere else. You know,
That's it.
That's it, and that kind of works. And I also think it can be reflected in the cost of implementation, right? So you can go to your vendors. I guarantee you, in 2023, you can go to your vendors, and you can tell them, hey, we want to do this at 25% of the whole cost, but in the next 3 months. Do you take it? They will say, yep, we take it. It's all fine. We'll upgrade you to another 25% of the cost, and then to the full cost in 2 years. We just need you to kind of get this hook into you right now and get you on the platform so you start using. So they'll be happy to support this step-by-step rollout as well. So yeah, big projects, a big no-no for 2023. Smaller projects which are all aligned, a certain goal and are planned ahead. It's not like, hey, we'll do a little bit here and there. No, not like that. There still has to be a strategy, but granular. And every step of the way, you will be able to tell your business management that, hey, this is how we're, being less fragile. This is how we're hedging risks. This is how we're saving money. This is how we are being prepared. And again, it goes towards this big idea that we're always promoting of learning and development being an integral part of business strategy. Yeah. So I think as business strategies move in this direction, learning and business,
and I think business people will understand this approach and this rhetoric, because this is how the business units are already operating. So it's a very similar approach. Very rarely now in big organizations, you are not agile, or you're not trying to be agile. You're not trying to hedge risks. It's very often the case. So yeah.
Right. Another trend which is very much linked to this is simplicity. Right. So I think that just as you do not invest into a single project that you try to launch for a year, and then at the end of the year you find out it's not that useful anymore. Same thing goes towards the actual authoring of content, right? If you can deal with slides instead of a highly interactive course, excellent. If you can do your own recording instead of hiring a huge crew, excellent. If you might invest into your own skills a little bit, or maybe in equipment to be able to produce content at scale, but kind of on your own, that's great. Instead of maybe building a whole course for every topic, invest once and then add kind of simpler elements to this big course that you produce on your own, right? In any case, it will come down to instructional design kind of trumping the technology. It means that, well, let me give you an example, and we will have a separate breakfast on that. We will talk about adaptive learning, but the idea was that we have a client who was sinking like 5,000 learning hours into a certain topic every year, and that was a lot of expensive hours of their employees. And they wanted to cut it, and we were looking at different adaptive learning systems. We were looking at AI. We were looking at a lot of things. In the end, we ended just taking this previous course and rebuilding it in a very modular form, where you can test out of certain modules. And we saved about 40 to 45% of those hours, because most people knew most things from this course, and we have like data to back it up and so on. So we saved a lot of hours, by just adding essentially a test in front of a course. That's it.
Yeah.
Huge savings, very simple solution. On a more difficult course, when we tried to replicate this, we saved about 20% of hours, simply because the course was more...
It was a new topic, so
Yeah.
for a lot of people, they could not test out because that was new for them.
Which experimentally kind of proves our point, because it does not mean that everyone will just test out randomly out of half content and
Or
will
will
not
cheat
care.
on it and...
Yeah, stuff like that. No, actually, it helped people. It saved a lot of time for the client, and the technical solution was, it's not even simple. I would say it was primitive, right? So we'll talk in detail.
Yeah, we'll
about
talk
that.
about in detail. Just to add that, on the learner side, I mean, we'll always talk about learner as our customer. The course scored higher NPS, Net Promoter Score, and in general satisfaction and how much I have learned from this course increased because people were learning something they did not know.
Yes.
Right. So, but again, as Sergey was saying, simple solution. Yeah, using the tools that were already there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not
And
buying new systems.
And another trend is kind of going the Lego way, building courses and learning programs that are built out of elements that you can reuse in different parts, building templates, building instructional templates, not just visual design templates, but coming up with ideas that can be reused across different topics, building courses that can be reused across different departments and so on. So this kind of green approach or sustainable approach, if you like, which again helps you reduce the sunk cost, because it's you build once, you use it multiple times. If you build it once and you don't use it anymore, it's not a huge element. It's a small, simpler element that you've invested in. You've used it once, you don't use it anymore. So be it. It's okay. All right. So another trend, and we switch from business strategy into technology now, is the generative AI. I'm sure you have heard about ChatGPT. It's all the rage now. I think every news outlet.
Let me tell it.
Okay.
Yesterday, I had an annual review with an employee, and the comment was, I'm only afraid my job will be replaced by an AI in 1 year. So
the fun part is that I cannot predict from what you've said whether that was a graphic designer, or that was a script author, or maybe that was a project manager. Could be. Because
we don't know.
We don't like generate, like but
I know the person, but we don't know who's going to be replaced.
Yes. So what's generative AI? In very quick terms, there are two things which are really trending right now. One is ChatGPT. It's a neural network which generates very, very coherent texts.
Yeah.
We'll be doing a specific breakfast on generative AI and how to use it, specifically how to use it in learning and development, how to make your job easier. We'll explain, it'll be more like a workshop where we explain where exactly you go, what exactly you type to get the best results, to make your own jobs easier, like writing course descriptions or creating course outlines or promoting courses and so on. So essentially what it does, you ask it something, it replies to you as a human with pure text. You can regulate the length of the reply, the depth of the reply. There are certain caveats, but if we talk about generic stuff like, hey, can you come up with an outline for a sales skills program, training program for me? It will create an excellent program. If you ask it, hey, here's the topic of the course, can you come up with a slogan? Easy.
Yeah.
Can you describe this in 5 sentences? Sure. Can you make those 5 sentences into a promotional email that I can send to my employees? Sure. Immediately, in 1 second, in 2 seconds, it creates very useful text in every language, by the way. So that is crazy. I think that's the change the size of invention of the internet. I have not seen anything like that in many, many years. Everyone's very excited. Some companies are scared. They say that Google is really, really scared and potentially in 2 years we will not be Googling stuff, right? We'll be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So and by the way, if you've seen the first slide, I actually generated this, an hour ago by using Midjourney, which is another generative AI only for images. So what it does, you ask it, like what I asked was learning and development manager sitting in front of a crystal ball, looking into the future, predicting trends.
Yeah, you get four nice options.
You get 4 nice options. I like the last one, right? The guy sitting
He's in the crystal ball, apparently.
Exactly, right. And they all look a little bit unhappy. It's been a hard year.
Yeah, and then you add happy learning and development manager.
Yeah, well, let's play with this stuff in the breakfast.
But it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
It's really fascinating. So this stuff is going to change a lot of things, and we will be talking about this in more detail in the future. One thing, before that I wanted to remind you is the hype cycle, right? So maybe ChatGPT is a little bit on the top of this cycle, at the peak of inflated expectations and so on. It will drop into the throw of disillusionment. People will be saying, yeah, I played with it, I didn't really find a place for this. But, slowly we'll get to the plateau of productivity, right? So just keep this thing in mind. We'll explain, if you're not familiar with the hype cycle, we'll explain it in more detail in the AI breakfast, so stay tuned. But definitely one of the trends for this year will be that thing. All right, another trend is leadership training. If you dig through a ton of really useless trends and fake predictions, then you'll find some really interesting materials. This is from Brandon Hall Group, where they asked top companies in they mostly talk to the United States, to explain what their priorities for 2023 are, and you can see that developing leaders is right there on top. It's really easy to explain, right? So yes. In the time of change, you need the leaders to define where you're going. When everything is the same, you train people to just be better at what they are doing, right? When the future is unpredictable, when the work is doing, when one day you're working from home, another day from the office, another day your whole industry is wiped out by the landscape changes, or like something happens, you need leaders to take decisions and to lead everyone out of trouble or into better things, right? So this is why leadership is important, and I think in the past few years, we've as a whole, as an L&D industry, we have not focused enough on leadership. We focused a lot of effort on things related to the pandemic, related to hybrid work, related to economic changes, and so
wellness
on.
of employees.
Wellness was a big topic last year, I think, right?
Absolutely.
As we were coming out into the real world again, and I think leadership will rebound. Yeah, it's been a little bit overdue, I think, as a topic, so it will come back. So think about that, and again, there will be a separate breakfast on that. This is just another example of a question like, what companies are investing in terms of future proofing, and most of the companies are indicating training managers to provide a more holistic experience for their employees. Management and leadership jobs have become harder, right? And we need to support that. So that will be a big topic for the upcoming year, for this year. And finally, it's digital security, right?
Oh yeah.
That's not becoming any easier. With hybrid work and all the changes, things get overlooked, right? Things get, hey, we need this done quickly, so let's ignore kind of overstepping a few boundaries and a few good practices in terms of security. So we'll have to pick up slack on that again.
Most importantly, I should add, we've been, because of the pandemic, we were kind of chasing that bus, that we were very often, companies came to us saying, we need a new cybersecurity program because this and that just happened.
Yes.
So it was always kind of not proactive but reactive. Now we see companies doing that proactively, like our neighbors have already been hacked. Okay, let us not be the one. Yeah, really, because this is what happens. Then cybersecurity specialists come to us with reports about breaches that happened in other companies and saying, let's build something on that, you see. But again, it's still kind of reactive because by the time you have this program, there are new ways to do phishing, social engineering and stuff. And it has to go beyond just saying, don't click on the links and don't do this and don't do that. It's kind of a mindset. Yeah. It's kind of a mindset stuff, and we'll talk about it on a separate breakfast, I think.
Yes,
we will address that.
We have a cybersecurity breakfast, and where we will talk about why people tend to ignore security training.
Yeah.
And there are very good reasons for that. It's not because they are lazy or bad or the security gets into the way of them doing work, which can be true as well. But there's a way deeper and yet very apparent reason, which we will not tell you, but we will tell you at the breakfast. Yeah. So if we change our whole attitude towards this, we might be able to achieve really great results in terms of improving digital security of our companies, which is super important right now. So yeah, for 2023, one of the big trends in learning and training will be upskilling employees in terms of digital skills, primarily in terms of security, but also other skills, right? Yeah. So being able to juggle this hybrid work, being able to use new tools efficiently, like Zoom, right? We probably use like 10% of what Zoom can do. It's a little bit similar to using Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Word. Most of us just, or our brains, they say we use like 10% of our brain. Same thing with software. Zoom is another software like that. It can be way more powerful in training, for example, than we typically use it. So yeah, that's just one example of a skill that can be trained. And of course, compliance will still be a huge thing, because I think in the past couple of years, a lot of companies have let the being compliant kind of slide a little bit in
because you were not
we were in a state of emergency.
Yeah, it's emergency.
Officially, we were in a state of emergency. Now we're definitely not in there. So compliance will have to be picked up. So in terms of trends, I think that's it. That's the last trend for today. Everything we wanted to talk about. This is another picture that AI generated. Yeah. Do subscribe for breakfast.intealearning.com to see what's coming and be notified when the topic of interest comes up. Do follow our channel and us on social media to not miss any content that we produce. And from my side, well, have a very productive 2023.
Absolutely. Have a very productive 2023. And our first trend was agility. Yes. And I think also with breakfasts, I think we feel that we have to be agile, and there are some topics that we have lined up for the season, but it feels like, things are changing. We might be swapping some stuff and changing, so don't be surprised about that. But really, follow us, and we plan to be on air every 2-3 weeks.
Yeah. Shoot an email to Raivis if you're interested in a particular topic to be covered. We're always open to suggestions and questions. We will probably be doing a few Q&A sessions this season as well, kind of live talking to kind of maybe smaller and more random stuff. But the big topics are outlined. Some of them we have mentioned today. Others are already in the agenda. If you're not subscribed, please do. And have a great Friday if you're watching this live.
Yeah. Take care. Bye-bye.